Hey guys, welcome back to the Crypto Media Podcast, where we talk about groundbreaking breakthroughs in technology in all things crypto media, cryptocurrency, and blockchain. And today I have the honor of introducing to you Brad Cam from Unstoppable Domains. And we're going to be talking about the new system with the PayID system that Ripple is integrating across 40 fintech companies that are involved in this project worldwide. So Brad, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your role at Unstoppable Domains.
Yeah, thanks a bunch for having me. So I'm one of the co-founders at Unstoppable Domains. I'm from Atlanta, but moved out to Silicon Valley to do startups. Been into crypto since early 2013. I moved into this kind of crazy crypto hacker house in the Mission District in San Francisco and went down the rabbit hole, and here I am.
Amazing. So tell us a little bit about Unstoppable Domains. Are they a San Francisco-based company, or are you guys in Silicon Valley?
Yeah, so we're based in San Francisco, had an office there. We just shut it down, of course, because of crazy Corona times, and we've scattered a little bit. I'm actually up in Napa for a few months to be closer to nature, but assuming things go back to relatively normal, we'll all kind of recongregate in San Francisco.
So for Unstoppable Domains, how long has this company been around for? How long have you guys been utilizing cryptocurrency and blockchain technology with your company?
Yeah, so we founded the company in January of 2018, started marketing domain names in March of 2019, went live a few months later, and we've been rolling ever since.
So explain to me how the domain .crypto works. So you guys own the rights to that, basically.
Yeah, so what we do is we launch domain registries, but we launch them on blockchains instead of as part of the traditional internet, what they call DNS. So you've got registries like .com owned by VeriSign. So we're similar as a business to that, except that we're launching our domain name systems on blockchain. So we launched .crypto on the Ethereum blockchain. It went live in December of 2019. And the idea is that the domain name can do all these things that a regular domain name can't. The first is that it can be a gateway for all of your crypto payments. So you can attach, so I've got brad.crypto. I can attach my Bitcoin address, my Ethereum address, my XRP address, any of my addresses all to this one domain. You can just type in brad.crypto and pay me. The exact same domain can also work for a decentralized website. A website that only you can put up or take down. And so the way this all works is that the domain name is an asset on the blockchain. So you store the domain name in your wallet, just like you would a cryptocurrency. And because of that, no one else can move it around. No one else can update the records. No one else can add or remove a website other than you. And this creates a censorship-resistant internet.
That's crazy. So how does it work do I just sign up as a user and pay a monthly subscription to have my domain name .crypto?
No, so there's no subscriptions. It's a one-time fee. Domains start at $40. The idea is that, in the traditional world, you've got all of these kind of like regulator type groups. So you've got, an ICANN fee that you pay each year. You've got other kind of service fees because somebody has to actually manage the servers. So you've got DNS servers. They're heavily centralized. You've got a small group of people that are in control of them. But if you launch your domain name system on a blockchain, then you're really just relying on the miners for security. So the miners are already getting paid. So there's really no one that needs to get paid for upkeep. So you control it forever, one-time fee. No one can take it away from you. Unstoppable Domains can't take it away from you.
So pull me through how this works in reality. So if I'm new to crypto, I want to send brad.crypto some funds in Bitcoin. How would you go through that process?
So it's super easy. I would just tell you, hey, pay me at brad.crypto. You would go into a wallet that supports the system and you would use it. So you could use Trust Wallet right now. You could use my Ether wallet, my crypto, Atomic wallet, Coinomi, many, many others.
Okay.
And so it's really that simple. You don't need to do anything or know anything else other than brad.crypto.
So instead of the OX address for an Ethereum wallet, you type in brad.crypto?
Yeah, and it works for, I think around 80 currencies right now. So, and it's all the same domain name. So all you need to know is brad.crypto. We don't even need to talk about which currency you want to pay me in. You can just go and decide, and it'll all route to me. So it doesn't even really matter.
That's amazing. So how does this work? So obviously Ripple announced yesterday, along with the consortium group of the 40 companies, that PayID is now out in the world. It's this new breakthrough technology, and you guys are partnering with PayID. So how does that correlate to .crypto domains?
So right now, all the .crypto domains can do is route crypto payments. They don't do anything regarding traditional payments or the traditional banking infrastructure yet. And one thing that PayID and Ripple in general has excelled at, has been really amazing at, is linking the traditional banking infrastructure in with crypto. And so the PayID network is providing this opportunity where there's going to be all of these. Essentially, we can get it down to the point where you're going to be able to, in the future, type in brad.crypto to send me Bitcoin or ETH or XRP, but also type it in to send me a wire. And once we have that, all of that together, that is a payment infrastructure that's going to enable crypto to take the next leap. Because ultimately, I'm sure you're aware of this. I'm sure your community thinks about this all the time. But most of the money is not in crypto right now. Most of the money is in fiat. And so one of the biggest problems we have as a crypto community is how do we onboard more of that money into the crypto world? And I see PayID as a perfect way to do that.
So can you send fiat currency through PayID?
You will be able to. You will be able to do so. The vision, as I understand it, is that it's going to enable you to connect any kind of payment rails. So you'll be able to attach your wire information and then be able to attach the PayID to the domain name. That's what. So it'll be two steps. You'll attach the wire information to the PayID to the domain name, and then you've got all of these things linked together.
So this would basically allow for instant wire transfers from cross-border border. So if I was sending money in the States, will it be instantaneous with the wire, or will it still take a few days? Or
yeah, the banking system, the old banking system is still going to take forever, unfortunately, because that's just how they roll. But the thing here, I think that's important is that we're making it so that experience already of having a simple human readable name to be able to send a wire is a substantially better experience than currently sending a wire. If I currently have to send a wire, I need account number, I need routing number, I have this weird interface. It's mostly in banks. So I think what this is doing is, because it's now becoming easier, now there's an opportunity for new apps and new interfaces to make it so I can now send a wire much more easily, or I could even choose, because oftentimes, when we're sending money around, even when we're sending money around to crypto people, sometimes a bank wire is actually easier, unfortunately. I would love to say that crypto is always the best answer, but in some cases, based on how our business is structured or whatever, they may prefer a wire. And so, because if we link all of this together, then we can just make paying people, regardless of what rails we want to use, so much easier. And I think it's maybe the best way to think about this is sort of an intermediary step. Maybe the end state, we hope that the end state is going to be that everyone's paying in crypto for everything. But that maybe is a decade away or more. And what we really need to do right now is we need to onboard more of the fiat payment rails so that they can much more easily come into the system. And crypto has a role here in the sense that you can have this domain name that you control completely. So you still have this self-sovereign thing that you can then point to your fiat. So it's a cool way to migrate the traditional payment system over to our world, and I think that's going to be probably a 10-year or more process. So I don't think we should expect that we're going to see it all happen tomorrow, but we're just trying to open it up, let that money win.
Exactly. So do you view? I was reading this little tweet on Twitter this morning, and it showed a little diagram of the innovation for what it took for the last 8 or 10 innovations, like air travel and internet and cell phone use, and the year time span it took to actually adopt 50 million users or onboard 50 million users. And I think that the quickest one was 12 days. I think it was Pokemon Go was 12 days or something. So why do you think crypto isn't having this whole like Pokemon Go speed on ramping people? And what do you think is going to get us there to that first like 50 million users? If we're not already believe we're there yet, but
I think it's a really big problem. I mean, we're talking about changing. I mean, we just in this conversation alone, we've talked about changing the way that payments work globally. We've talked about changing the way that the internet works globally. Like these are gigantic, gigantic problems and gigantic markets. And, we think about the internet, where the internet was, kind of first, I guess you could say maybe in production for users in the 80s. And was it, in the 90s, people were still saying that the internet was, not very useful. Maybe early 2000s, it started to mainstream, maybe 2006, 2007, when we started having Facebook, it kind of, went to the older generations and kind of, got this, started to get this sort of ubiquity in society. So that was 20 years. But each stage was still a revelation, and each stage was still a massive step forward. So like, crypto's been at it for 10 years. Yeah, it's very rough around the edges. Yeah, it's only, 10 or 20 million or maybe 30 million people or whatever it is so far. But that's still pretty impressive. And I think the thing that crypto has that a lot of these other innovations don't have is that it has all of these self-funding mechanisms. So like 10 to 15 years in, crypto doesn't have a ton of users, but it has, a couple $100 billion in market cap, 300 billion in market cap, whatever it is right now.
Yeah.
And that alone is sort of a superpower that the internet didn't have. The internet had to bootstrap itself. The internet had to go and, talk VCs into giving them money for every little thing. Crypto doesn't need that. Crypto has its own engine for innovation. So I'm bullish that crypto is going to be able to kind of move faster maybe than the internet did in some ways, and it gets to sit on the back of the internet. Like it gets to distribute itself over the internet. So like the internet didn't have an internet to distribute itself on. So exactly. So it has this like massive network that it gets to, sit on the back of and expand from. So early days, but I mean, just think how far we've come in 10 years. Like, 10 years ago, if you were talking about crypto, you were a crazy person. I mentioned the hacker house I was living in San Francisco in 2013, and it was a strange place, and everybody thought we were crazy. And so just in that time frame, I just see a completely, I mean, we're talking about all kinds of massive institutions trying to get into crypto. Like that would have been unthinkable 7 years ago. And even if we were being bullish, if we were like, going around and dreaming what's going to be the most optimistic future for crypto, it probably would not have been as optimistic as today. Exactly. Even if we were dreaming. And that's kind of amazing to look back and think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of my viewers are bullish on XRP, are bullish on Ripple as the company, and I'm sure maybe you are too. Are you a fan of XRP?
I'm a fan of crypto broadly. You'll hear us, you'll hear us demur on specific, on specific, currencies, and the main reason why is because we see ourselves as a connector across currencies. So our goal is to build products that work across any of these currencies and any of these networks. So we're broadly big fans, but try to be careful not to sound like we're picking favorites and make somebody mad at us.
Does your company have a relationship with Ripple, like working on this project for PayID? And what was that relationship like?
Yeah. So we've been talking with the PayID folks about it for quite a little while. We're really impressed with the team. We're really impressed with how thoughtful they are about it. Mm-hmm. And also we just think that Ripple has a superpower, which is this connectivity with the traditional banking system. And when we talk to other crypto companies, what they can bring to the table is a few $1 billion in crypto assets or whatever. But what Ripple can bring to the table is a few $1 trillion of banking capital. And that is just a completely different game. And so that's why we're leaning into this, because we think that any on-ramp to crypto is extremely important. And this is the biggest on-ramp we've seen so far.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of haters against Ripple and XRP, but when you look at the long run, what they're doing is they're creating the on-ramp for traditional investors, for decentralizing and helping get that money, the Nostra Vostra money, and all those funds tied up in wire transfers and everything, on a better rail system in blockchain, in interledger protocol and everything. And I find it interesting that people hate on it so much, being they're actually the forefront charge for crypto adoption, basically in the traditional world.
And we see this all the time, where you've got kind of like, and the truth is that we all need each other. Like, the hardcore, decentralize everything folks need the on-ramps too. Like, and I think that the on-ramps need the decentralized everything folks, because those are the philosophers that ensure that the future is, better than the past. And so I think both sides need each other, and having a fight over it is silly. Both of those things are critically needed and awesome.
Exactly. So what are you most? Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking that in my head, when I think about this, I'm thinking back to like one of the memories of the early internet I have, where email starts to get popular, but traditional business was using fax machines, and then somebody came up with this idea of, if you send me a fax, it'll generate an email, and people thought that was absurd. They're like, why would you want to take this old school machine and then make it digital? But the truth is, fax machines weren't, didn't move out of business. From the day email started to become popular to the day that fax machines became irrelevant was many, many years of transition. And I think that those ramps that allow you to onboard people to digital assets are critical. Most assets are analog. They are not digital. Yeah. And so that's the problem we have today. We've got 80, 90, whatever it is, $1 trillion of fiat currency. That's our job. We need to onboard that.
So we obviously are living in the internet of things. Like, we can send emails, we can buy products on e-commerce, but we're transitioning obviously into the internet of values. Could you tell us, if somebody had never heard of that term before, what would you kind of give them an elevator pitch for, the dawn of the internet of value age?
It's when money becomes programmable. And when money becomes programmable, and I'm not going to do as good of a job as others on this, so I apologize in advance, but when money becomes digital, money becomes programmable, money becomes digital, it means that when money is code, you can do all kinds of new things. You can set rules for your money. Your money can go and invest itself. Your money can go and protect itself. Your money can secure itself. It's this digitization of a thing that has never been digital before. And each time we see that happening in the world, we see, just a massive social shift. And the fact that we're talking about money, one of the most valuable and important assets, I think one of the things that people forget when they're trying to think about this problem of taking money from analog to digital is really how big the analog market is. We talk about the stock market being, I don't know what the total market cap is now, maybe it's 10, 20 trillion, something like that. But the fiat currency market cap is bigger. If you look at it, I don't know if you're familiar with the term broad money, the broad money calculation, which is basically like, if you were to add up all balances in bank accounts, the amount of, not the amount of paper currency, but the amount of actual value denominated. And I think that number for the US is 10, 15 trillion, something like that. For the yuan, somewhere around the same. For the euro, somewhere around the same. It adds all the way up to like $80 trillion. And so that's one of the biggest markets in the world that we're talking about. And crypto right now is 300 billion. So 80 trillion to 300 billion. Like that's how far we can go here in terms of market growth. And that's just that's completely mind blowing.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like the possibilities for adoption are just limitless in crypto. Yeah, so I think we'll wrap it up pretty soon here, Brad. But thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so pumped to check out Unstoppable Domains more and set up my own. Maybe I'll try to get media.crypto as a domain. It's probably taken, but
yeah, we'll definitely get you something. We'll also get you a website set up so you can play around.
Yeah, so explain to people, like, Do they have to, being they're building on the blockchain as opposed to like, GoDaddy or something? How do they like make the website or the infrastructure for it? Is it different from traditional websites?
So we're trying to make it as easy as it would be in the traditional web world. But what you're really doing is you've got your domain name on the blockchain, and then you're pointing it to content stored on a decentralized storage network. And right now we're using IPFS. For those of you who are familiar, it's probably the most mature decentralized storage network right now, although there are several. And so what the experience you get when you go to unstoppabledomains.com is you search for a domain just like you would at a GoDaddy. You buy the domain. You can check out with credit card, crypto, PayPal. Once you claim the domain, you can go and choose we've got maybe 15 templates so far. You don't need to be a coder. You can go and build a personal page. You can launch a blog. We're going to have several more coming. And then you just one-click publish to IPFS. It connects your domain name, launches to the decentralized hosting network, and then you're there. It's a little, it's still pretty early days, so it kind of looks like it's relatively simple stuff. But there's no reason why, when you look at it and you see it and you go through this experience, you're going to say to yourself, that kind of reminds me of what I see at GoDaddy, where I go and I buy a domain and then I can go and set up on Wix or whatever. So you're starting to see how it's going to look, and this stuff just works. It's going to work so much better than the traditional web. Traditional web, you got to wait 60 days after you buy the domain. You got all these weird subscriptions. Your domain registrar can take the domain away from you. There's all these rules around selling it. You got to have an escrow agent, all that stuff. It's all gone. Right. It's all gone. It's just going to be so much easier, faster, simpler, cheaper with a decentralized web. And that's where we're headed. Right now, 2020 is the first year where this stuff was actually easy enough to use that you don't have to be a developer to do it. But, just 2021 is going to be way further along. So in 2019, I think we had maybe a few hundred websites launch. So far in 2020, we've had 12,000 websites launch.
Wow.
So the numbers are increasing really quickly, and it's purely because the tools are now easier. That's been the problem. It's always just, it's purely a thing of like, how easy is it to use? And, crypto has not been super easy historically. And I think it's getting a lot easier. I mean, over where we were 12 months ago, I would say crypto in general is far easier to use than it was a year ago. And that's far easier to use than it was 3 years ago. So we're seeing huge user experience improvements year over year. And that's the thing that has me the most pumped.
That's so awesome, man. Well, Brad, thank you so much for taking time to connect with me on the show today. And I know my viewers and everybody in the community here has got a lot of value and learned a lot about Unstoppable as well as PayID and where we're heading in the next 2 to 5 years. So before we just sign off, where do you see yourself in the crypto space, and where do you see crypto going in the next 5 years?
I mean, I think it's starting to eat away a lot of traditional markets. So, we want to be the place, the place that you go to onboard to the decentralized web. That's what we're trying to build. Unstoppabledomains.com as kind of your portal to the decentralized web. But broadly in crypto, like, it's going to start eating away at, the traditional payments market. It's going to start eating away at traditional web markets, traditional asset markets. There's just so many different markets: financial services, web, currency. It can do all of these things. It's already proven it can do all these things, and it's going after these markets simultaneously. There's so much happening that there's growth. There's massive growth happening in 3, 4, 5, 6 different categories that are all $1 trillion plus markets. So totally. It's almost hard to keep track of.
It is, yeah. Well, yeah, I think this has been an incredibly informative show for myself, and I know a lot of viewers are going to get lots of value. So do you have any final comments to somebody who's like new to the crypto space? Maybe this is the first video they've popped on that's been in the crypto world. What would you say to them for advice? I
would say keep going down the rabbit hole. You won't regret it. Crypto is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I had no idea when I was younger, where I would be, or really like what thing I was going to really, dive into, what thing I was going to wind up really being passionate about. Mm-hmm. And this is it. It's the biggest innovation I've seen in my lifetime. And it's kind of hard. It's hard not to wake up thinking about it once you go down that rabbit hole. And so,
Yeah.
Maybe it'll make you a little bit less popular with your friends at first, but it's still worth it.
Yeah, because a lot of people throw around the idea of we're moving into the fourth industrial revolution, and that's kind of what it is in a lot of ways. But a lot of it's flying under the radar, so we need to have people like you and myself and anybody educating people about on-ramping people into crypto and in an easy and practical way that's seamless and stress-free and not too convoluted and stuff too. So. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And it was great to meet you, Brad. How can people get a hold of you, or can they follow you on Twitter, or how can they get a hold of Unstoppable Domains as well?
Yeah, follow us on Twitter at Unstoppable Web. We're also on Telegram. There's a conversation 24 hours, 7 days a week there, Unstoppable Domains, or check out unstoppabledomains.com.
Incredible. Well, guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate all the likes and the feedback. I'm excited to look at the comments here. I can't see the comments on my StreamYard app, so hopefully there's comments coming in, but I'll have to reply to them in comments later. I apologize about that, but take care, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Thanks for watching my dad's channel, Crypto Media. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.